EdConstable.com here on the Project Potential Podcast, episode number 1. Now, for the last couple weeks, I've pondered where to start. What am I going to talk about? So, where I'm going to start is the beginning. Before I tell you the story of my very first real estate transaction, I want to get into and tell you a little bit about what this podcast is going to be about, the things we're going to cover, the people we're going to interview, and what I expect and want you to get out of this, because I'm definitely doing this podcast for you. As I sit here at the office at 10, 12 p.m. at night recording this, I just feel an obligation to share what I've learned on my journey with you and the relationships that I've built with people and the information they shared with me. I just want to share with you for free. So what are we going to talk about on this podcast? Well, we're going to talk about life, its struggles, its ups, its downs, its highs and lows, its dips, its valleys. And I want to share some of the practices that I've used and people on the show have used to get through life, to stay positive in this never-ending negative world so you can dominate, so you can reach your true potential. Who are we going to interview? We're going to interview top real estate professionals, top entrepreneurs, top badasses who are dominating in whatever space that they are in, and anybody that has a journey, a message, or a story that I feel someone can get value out of. Now, what do I want you to get out of this? I want you to be able to get a little bit of information, a little inspiration, and maybe that last little push that you needed to start going out and living the fulfilling life that you always dreamed of, and maybe even reach your true potential, which is limitless. So my very first deal, 6 months out of college, I'm 21 years old, and I decide that I am going to jump into the real estate game. Stuff's cheap. It's 2011. I'm out looking at projects all over the place. I'm writing offers right and left, money I don't even have. And one day I found 2 deals that I wanted. One was a 3,500 square foot monstrous old mansion house in Durand, Michigan, and another one in downtown Linden. Oldest commercial building in Linden. So the realtor I was working with at the time, I told her, I'm like, I want to write $5,000 cash offers on both of these properties today. And whatever one I get, that's what I'm going to work on. That's my first deal. Well, wrote one up on the $5,000 in Durand, didn't get it. Wrote one up for $5,000 on the one in Linden. And at the same time I wrote it up, they had multiple offers on the property. So I raised my price. At the time, the current asking price was $29,000. I offered $5,000. They countered me since I wrote first at $17,900, and I accepted. Now, I had about $5,000 at the time. I didn't have enough money to cover my closing costs if I had paid $5,000. And I just got an offer accepted on a building for $17,900, and I don't have $17,900. So I'm scrambling. I sell my crotch rocket. I'm selling anything I can do to raise money, squeeze money out of anything, just trying to get enough money to close on this thing. And finally, I had to go to my mom and see if she would co-sign for me on an unsecured personal loan at the credit union. Now, I had good credit, luckily. My mom has great credit. And the max we could get was $15,000. And she co-signed for me on this deal, unsecured at 12%. So I go to closing, paying cash, but I'm leveraged out at 12%. And now I still don't have the money to redo the thing. So I walk into that building the day after closing, after I get out of work. I sit down in the middle of the room in a 5-gallon bucket, and I'm looking around. I'm like, where do I even start? Now, the floors in this thing, 18-inch waves. I've got cracked floor joists. I've got rotted siding. I've got tons of broken windows. This thing is just a mess. But I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad that I need to build my little real estate empire before I build up a bunch of expenses. So here I am. I buy this commercial building. I'm still living in my mom's basement. And now I'm jumping in the commercial real estate game. Well, this building did have a commercial storefront on the main floor. Upstairs had a 900 square foot apartment. And then it also had an old barn behind the building that still needs a roof to this day. And that apartment was the first project I kind of tackled after I got the outside kind of dialed in, because this thing was laser bright blue. I have no idea why anybody would paint a building that color, but now it's a nice tan and green. The whole community was happy that the laser blue was gone. I felt like a hero in my one little building there, the Leaning Tower of Linden. So we painted the outside up, then we tackled the apartment. Now, the apartment is pretty cool. It has extremely unlevel floors, but it has a pretty cool pedestal bathtub. Well, this apartment needed tons of drywall repair. You know, if you could imagine, a wood building built from 1850 has done a little bit of settling, and it was in major need of drywall repair, and I don't think anybody ever caulked anything in this building, because we put about 2 cases of caulk just in the trim to try and get this thing sealed up. And I finally caught a little bit of relief when I found a tenant for the thing who was willing to help me redo it. And so that tenant was kind of working off his security deposit as my credit cards are maxed out. Now, a funny story about my credit cards being maxed out. I bought a lot of my materials at Home Depot. I was scrambling through the mist tint section, just trying to get enough paint for $4 a gallon to be able to paint this thing. And then I would also go to Ace Hardware because it was much closer to buy the little things I needed as I worked on this building and a lot of the glass. Well, I went to Ace Hardware after we're probably 2 months into this project, and I put about $20 worth of items on the counter, and I swipe my card, and it says denied. So I'm like, all right, well, let me get another one. I swipe my debit card, denied. Every card that I had in my wallet got denied, over $20 worth of stuff at Ace Hardware. Now, a little bit of an embarrassing moment, but I got paid, this was on Wednesday or Thursday, I got paid on Friday, so on Friday, I got my paycheck so I can pay off my credit card just so I can max that thing out the next week to repair this building. Now, luckily I had a great mom who let me live in the basement, and luckily I had a great woman, now a wife, who helped me work on this building every day. And so I would work my standard 9 to 5. I got out at 4:30 every day, and I would go home. I would switch into these jean shorts just covered in paint after working on this building. I was super classy looking. And I would go to this building and work on it every night between 9:30 and 10:30, and I'd finally come home, and this just went on all summer long. And we would have friends stop by the building. My wife's friends would stop by with their boyfriends, and I could just see them looking at like, Laura, you are nuts. What are you thinking with this guy? This thing is a pile. You know, they're all living out, driving fancy cars and have nice houses and stuff. And here we are. She's living with her parents. I'm living with my parents after we already had homes in college. So we definitely took a step backwards after we graduated. And I really enjoyed spending time on the lake, and it really hit home what I was sacrificing when I was working on this building and what this great woman was sacrificing to be with me and share this dream with me when it was 4th of July, and it was the weather was just fantastic. It was 95 degrees outside, and my girlfriend, now wife, is in the second floor of this apartment brushing and rolling and painting this dump of a building with me. And it's 95 degrees, sunny day. All of our friends are out on the lake. We had invites to the lake, and we're painting this building. Now, it's 95 outside, but this is the second story of a not insulated great building built in 1850. So this apartment, it's 110 in there. We just got sweat running down our faces, trying to do everything we can to get this thing dialed in. So at that moment, I don't think I even said anything to her, but I knew I had to keep her. I can still picture my brain today watching her roll that wall, and it's just amazing. I've got a great wife, so thanks, babe. So that was the apartment. Now, we finally got the apartment done. Tenant moves in. I think they were going to pay $550 a month. They worked off their security deposit. They paid a couple months. I'm finally can start to breathe. I'm starting to pay my credit cards off. And I'm like, it's all good. Now, at $550 a month, my payment on that loan is $400 a month at 12%. So I'm just paying interest pretty much. I've got taxes and insurance. I've got a water bill that I'm eating. I'm mowing the lawn, so I'm still losing money. But it felt really good to lose that little. So I'm finally starting to breathe, get a little caught up, and the tenant stops paying. He's out of work. He's a contractor. It's 2011. Those guys aren't super busy. And I've never evicted anybody before. I've never had anybody owe me money like this before. I've never had a payment that I can't float unless he pays me before. Now, it was at least 3 months in a row that I had to take this guy to court and get a judgment, and on the last possible day before I could get a writ, he would pay. So this is a $550 a month apartment that with court costs, he's paying $700 a month on, and on the very last month, he finally stiffed me for over $700. So now here we are. I gotta go back in this apartment, clean it up a little bit again. Luckily, it was left in somewhat decent repair. So now I'm on to tenant number 2. I'm like, I'm gonna find a good one. Well, I find 2 young couples, same age as me, want to move in there. I'm like, well, shoot, there's 4 of them. All 4 of them are working. You know, they don't have great cars, but their cars are paid for, so that's one less thing they have to worry about. I'm like, great, they can afford this, no problem. $550 a month, I put them in there. And I got my first month's rent, my deposit. I never got another dollar out of these people. I had to evict them again. So the second eviction, I haven't even owned the thing 6 months or 9 months now. And so I'm starting to second guess this whole landlording thing. I'm driving down the road on my way home one day. I'm just freaking crying because I don't know what to do. So I put them out, and to this day, they are still the worst tenant I ever had. So I got broken the right way, court constantly. My first 2 tenants, I learned the right way how to screen these people, what to look for, what not to look for. And this beautiful apartment, in my brain, beautiful, they destroyed it. They kicked in my vanities and cupboards, dumped bacon grease down the bathtub, broke the stove, ruined the carpet. So here I am. I'm like, I just put every penny I had in this thing, and now it's ruined. Now I got to clean it up, and now I have to lease it again. So the third tenant I finally put in this thing, I finally got it right. She ended up staying a few years. She was great, one of the best tenants I've ever had to this day. But the journey with this building isn't over yet. I still have not leased the commercial space. A few months later, I finally get a lead on a tenant for this commercial space, and I'm like, yes, this is going to make it profitable. This deal, I am a genius. I knew this work would pay off. I am a genius. I am making residual income. I got my deposit. I've got a 3-year signed lease. And the city of Linden put in this ordinance during the crash, which I have no idea why, that any time a building goes vacant for more than 6 months, the building's parking lot needs to be paved. Well, I have a limestone parking lot. This has been a commercial building since 1850. You'd think I'd be grandfathered. But nope, I'm not. And so middle of winter, I have this tenant to move in. I'm eating these heating bills. I'm all excited, thinking that I'm going to finally start making some money. And the tenant has a moving truck rented, getting ready to move into the building, and the city of Linden calls him up and says, you can't move into there until the parking lot's paved. And I call the city of Linden. I'm like, well, do you think we can have a little bit of flexibility? It's the middle of winter. Nope, can't move until the parking lot's paved. So that building now sat vacant all winter long. In the spring, I had to put $5,000 into a parking lot, waited another 3 months, finally leased the space, and finally became profitable after I had to refinance the thing. Got my interest rate down to 7%. Had to pull out another $5,000 just to do the parking lot and to finally lease this space. So I don't know why these municipalities make it hard on us, but they do. So do your due diligence if you're buying a commercial property. So I still have this thing to this day. It's one of the pieces of my portfolio that makes me the happiest. It's not necessarily the most profitable, but it's definitely something I'm proud of that I have. I've had offers to double, maybe even triple my money on that thing, and I think it just kind of holds a piece of my heart, the journey, the struggles that me and this building have been through together, and I'm just happy to own it. I'm happy I could share kind of the story with you just to show you that the road on buying these things isn't always easy. You can't ask enough questions, especially in commercial real estate, but you can't ask so many questions that you never pull the trigger. Now, were there days that I wish I never bought this thing? Most definitely. I look back on the struggles that I've had with this thing. I've learned from every single one of them. Were there times that I think I would never get out of this thing? Absolutely. But you can't go through life and be scared to pull the trigger on something. Sometimes you just got to take a risk, take a leap, jump, and grow your wings on the way down. That's what I did on this. It worked out great. Now pay it off, making money, happy to own it, and happy to share this first deal with you guys. Thank you for listening to that story on the Project Potential Podcast, episode number 1. I know that story wasn't exactly what you call value-packed. We do have some value-packed interviews already set up. Our goal with this podcast is to do one a week, so please stay tuned.